sowing into a process. Ooh. I'm sowing into a process. So I got to settle into the process because reaping takes time. But sowing is guaranteed when you know what you put in the ground. That's why I got to be careful when I start feeling weary, because my weariness starts growing. So I got to put something else in the ground. I got to say, God, nevertheless, not my will, but your will be done. God, I trust you anyhow, because I got to make sure in this season of sowing that I don't start sowing seeds that grow my weariness. As Paul says, he says in Galatians 6:9, he says, and do not grow weary while doing good. For in due season we shall reap if I can maintain the patience required for the sowing, I will reap. If I manage to not grow weary and not be discouraged by what I see and keep sowing anyway, even when it don't make sense, if I could just keep sowing anyway, even when the math don't math, if I could just keep sowing anyway. I got to keep feeding my spirit. My situation hasn't changed, but I believe that his word is true. If I keep on sowing, I'm going to reap. If I keep on sowing, I'm going to see what God says. If I keep on sowing, you will reap in due season if you don't lose heart. That means there is a connection between my ability to see harvest and my ability to protect my heart. I got to learn to protect my heart in seasons where I don't see what I've sowed come to fruit yet. Oh, raising that kid, and I don't see it yet, but I'm still sowing. And I'm protecting my heart while I sow. You know why? Because I don't want to miss harvest when it comes. Oh, can I say this the way I feel it? The principle of sowing and reaping is this, that what you sow, you will reap. But just because you reap it doesn't mean that you'll see it. If your heart is lost in the process, you can be standing in harvest and miss it because you lost your heart in the process. Because my heart got jaded along the way. I missed when this fruit was beginning to spring up. Oh, I wish I could say that. There are moments in our life where we are standing in harvest, but we have become so jaded by the process, so discouraged and so weary that we don't even see the harvest when we're standing in it. So the question is not, will I keep sowing? The question is, can I keep heart? Because my heart will make me sensitive to the moment when harvest is on the way. I feel this prophetically for somebody. I don't know who you are, but I hear God telling me to let you know that I hear the sound of an abundance of rain. No. See, we'd have to go all the way back to 1 Kings to let you know what that means. In 1 Kings, when there was a famine in the land, he sends a prophet to speak to somebody who was wondering when the harvest was coming. And he says, I know you don't see the harvest coming, but I hear rain. It's a rainy day. No, I mean this prophetically. I don't know who this is for. You've been sowing and sowing and sowing, and you're getting weary from the seed you put in the ground. And I hear God saying, get ready, get ready, get ready, get ready. I hear God saying, don't look at the news. Don't look to your left and don't look to your right. If you keep your eyes on me, you'll see the clouds when they start rolling. You'll hear the thunder before the rain even falls. I hear a sound. I hear a sound. You're about to see in the flesh. You're about to see in your flesh what you've been sowing in the spirit. You're about to see in your life what you've been sowing in the spirit. This weariness is a test. This weariness is a test. If you can pass the test of this weariness. Oh, I feel that prophetically. That wasn't in my notes. But I need you to understand that if you can resist the temptation to let your weariness grow, if you can engage in a fight to keep your heart, you got to get your heart back. You got to get your heart back. Your heart was never connected to the outcome. Your heart was just connected to the obedience. You got to get your heart back. You know why you got to get your heart back? So you don't miss harvest when it comes. You got to get your heart back. Your heart is going to be the sign that lets you know that harvest is on the way. I hear God saying it's going to hit you in your chest before it shows up in your hand. It's going to hit you in your chest before it shows up in your house. It's going to hit you in your chest before it shows up at the office. It's going to hit you in your chest. God says it's going to drop in your spirit when harvest is on the way. It'll drop in your heart when harvest is on the way. Okay. I was so into that too. I don't blame you for that. I was so into that too. If it hit you in your chest, I would make sure that you got some kind of harvest on the way. Paul wants to make sure that this church in Galatia, that they managed to do the hard task of keeping their heart while sowing. So when you realize that you're growing weary, it's not a circumstance issue, it's a heart issue. There's something in my heart that is under attack. And I got to protect my heart in seasons of weariness. You see, because weariness, it dulls your senses. And I know this because we miss things when we're weary. We don't hear properly when we're weary. We don't know what to do when we're weary. So wouldn't it be just like the enemy to not necessarily put you in a fight that is obvious? He just makes you weary of the fight you're already in. Convinces you that there is no harvest connected to the battle you're in. So when we find Moses in Numbers 20, it is no surprise that he is frustrated. His sister has died. And the Hebrew children are complaining again. And they think that the same God who parted the Red Sea, the same God who delivered them from the oppression of the Egyptians, would bring them into the wilderness and let them die. He's allowed manna to come from heaven. He's proven himself over and over and over again. And Moses is tired from leading a people who just cannot get with the program. And here they go complaining again. His sister has died. He's in the wilderness with these ungrateful people. And they're worried about dying of thirst. And the Lord gives him specific instructions. The Lord says to him to take your rod and speak to the rod. Take your rod. This is the same rod that parted the Red Sea. This is the same rod that in chapters earlier, he struck the rock and water came out of the rock. He says, I want you to take that same rod, but this time I don't want you to strike the rock. I want you to speak to the rock. This is how we know Moses was weary. Because he gets to the rock and he strikes the rock. Wait a minute. That's not what God said to do. But when you're weary, You just do what's worked before, and you miss out on what God is saying to do now. When you're weary, you think the same thing that worked back then ought to work right now. You seek God, but you don't actually do what God said because you think that I'll use the same strategy from back then for now. When you're weary, you can have the right strategy at the wrong time. And the right strategy at the wrong time is still the wrong strategy. It was right then, but it's wrong for now. What worked for one kid don't work for the other kid. Right strategy, wrong kid. Right strategy, wrong team. Right strategy, wrong moment. It's not that you don't have the right strategy, you're just standing in the wrong moment for that strategy. So you have to be willing to ask God, what is the strategy for this moment? And to not be so weary that when you're backed in a corner, you pull from what you know. Because when you're weary, you go for what you know, not for what you're told. And when you go for what you know and not for what you're told, you miss God. Because you're trying to do what's already been done, and God's trying to show you the diversity He has and His ability to provide, the diversity He has and His ability to show up. You see, my God is not a God that has to follow the same pattern. What He did for you, He don't have to do for me. Oh. Me personally, nobody asked, but I'll tell you. I think that David's greatest strength was knowing which weapon to use when. We talk about David using the slingshot, and that was very powerful. But we don't see David using the slingshot throughout the book because he had enough wisdom to recognize that this was the right strategy for that. But this battle may require a different strategy. In some battles, when he went to fight Goliath, he said, Saul, I can't wear your armor. I got to wear what's mine. But then we see him when he is more militarized and king, we see him armoring up. Because different battles require different weapons. Let me say this real good. So when David begins to talk about his success and his confidence is not in the slingshot. He does not say that I have this slingshot that I used on a lion, and I have this slingshot that I used on a bear. He says, the Lord, the same Lord who delivered me. See, the Lord gave him the strategy for how to take care of the lion and how to take care of the bear. And he believed that the same God would give him strategy for how to take care of Goliath. And he believed that the same God would give him strategy for every battle that he was in, even if he did not use the same method that he used before. If I was really preaching, I would take a minute and talk to somebody about you grieving the fact that you don't have a slingshot when you're not even in a slingshot battle. You want a slingshot because the slingshot worked last time. But God says, for this battle, I don't need a slingshot. For this battle, all I need is a praise. Sometimes I win by slingshot. Sometimes I win by praise. Sometimes I pull from my sword. Sometimes I pull from my worship. But one thing I'm going to do is win, because the same Lord that delivered me then is going to deliver me now. If I had about 5 more seconds, I would take a praise break real quick. And I would go back in time and tell you about the many ways that God took care of me using all kinds of different strategies. Sometimes he used a friend, and sometimes it was just me in my prayer closet, and sometimes he used an Instagram post, and sometimes he used an old hymn. But let me tell you, every time he used something, I came out on the other side. Oh, if I had about 5 people in here who didn't mind. He didn't use the same thing, Calm down. Calm down. I will be honest. I feel a little rowdy. I will be honest. I feel a little rowdy. Because I've been limiting God to one weapon. And that's why I've been weary. Because I thought if he was going to do it, he had to do it a certain way. But I realized that God, Lord, I done broke my shoe. I realized that God doesn't need to do what he did yesterday. In this present moment. So, that's what you must understand. Is that God can do it in any number of ways. So my trust is not in the method. God, I don't care if you cure me by laying hands or you put the cure in the doctor's hands. All I know is that the Lord is going to deliver my body. I don't know who that is for, but don't you believe that because it didn't happen at the altar, that it won't happen at all. God says, I'll bring you to the altar so your faith can get up for when you walk in the doctor. I feel a little rowdy. Yeah. Some people get instant deliverance right here at the altar. And then some people walk away. And they say, because he didn't do it for me the way he did it for them, he's not going to do it for me at all. But I came here to tell you that when the Lord has declared that you will be healed, and when the Lord has declared that you will be whole, he may not use the same method he used for your neighbor, but he is not a man that he shall lie. That I said I will do, says God, I will perform it. So don't get discouraged by the method he used for me, just because that method ain't in your life. My God is vast enough and wide enough to come up with a new strategy for the thing you're facing. You're weary because you're looking for yesterday's solution or your neighbor's solution. But God says, don't limit me. Don't limit me. If you went up to the man in Matthew 9 and says, well, how does Jesus heal the blind? He tell you, well, he just speaks a word. And that's how he heals the blind. But then if you hopped over into Matthew 20 and asked those blind men, how does he heal the blind? They'll say, well, he touches your eyes, and that's how you're healed. What a man in John would say, excuse me, that's not what he did for me. You know how he healed my eye? He took mud and spit and rubbed it together. And then if you went over to Mark 8 and you asked that man, wait a minute, how'd he heal you? The man in Mark 8 would say, he touched me once and it didn't work, but he touched me again and I started seeing men. Everybody healed different methods. Everybody healed a different path.